What makes us fat? 39% of the adult population are deemed to be overweight. It is now estimated that most of the world's population lives in countries where overweight and obesity is a bigger risk to health than underweight. So what's driving this landscape change towards this epidemic? I understand in this week's video that I probably look like a cross between a Spanish waiter and also sound like I've been on the Colombian sherbet. That's because this week I've been away in America. Well, the past 2 weeks I've been away in America, in fact, to Disney. And this is kind of what inspired this week's video. If you're thinking about what is that thing on your nose, Ben, I haven't been in scrapping, I haven't been fighting, I haven't even been back to Muay Thai. It's just the case that these things have really helped my breathing since I've been back, been super jet lagged. And these have just helped open up my airways, breathe a little bit easier, and speak a little bit better. The reason for this week's video is mainly due to the fact that when I was in America, I saw a lot of people who would be classed as obese. And I'm not picking on people with this video. I'm not trying to single people out, but there was a day in particular that me and Lucy went to one of the theme parks. I think it was Magic Kingdom, and they had this new Tron roller coaster. And essentially on this Tron roller coaster, there must have been 10, 20, even 30 people whilst we were in the queue who were kicked off the roller coaster. So essentially you had to get into the roller coaster by kneeling down, putting your hands onto handlebars, and then almost riding it like a motorbike, and this kind of contraction clamped onto your lumbar region to keep you in the motorbike, and you fled around. There was one particular incident that I remember where there was a guy who was sat with his son on this new roller coaster, probably queued up for a few hours, was then kicked off the roller coaster because he was too big to fit on it, and put in a trailer at the back of the roller coaster that was made for people in wheelchairs, for them to be able to ride the ride, which is great, but it was mainly being used for people who were too big to fit on the actual ride itself. And I'm not dumping on America here because there's obese populations everywhere. It seemed to be even more so in Orlando around the Disney parks, and we were kind of like the odd people out. If you were in shape, you almost looked at us in like, are you okay? You've been working out a little bit too much today.
Man, yeah, it's not looking good, bruv. It's not looking good.
It was the opposing. It was a flip side to, I suppose, being fit shamed and fat shamed. And what this then led me on to is this video looking at why is it so difficult to lose weight, or why is the obesity rate rising? I obviously discussed this in the previous video. A lot of the time is banded around that poverty is one of the leading concerns in terms of why the population obesity rate is rising. And I would tend to agree, as this includes factors such as housing, income, space to train, access to space, education. So when I first looked at this chart and saw that right at the bottom of the chart was Vietnam at 2.1% population that was obese, I was like, I wonder why it's classed as a lower middle class income country. It has a population in poverty of 13 million people and has 97.4 million people living there, give or take. And I wanted to compare this to the UK, which had an obesity rate of around 27%, with a poverty population of 13.4 and an overall population of 67.33 million. So the stats that reflect the other country in terms of the percentage of the country that's in poverty and the size of the population is comparable. And I started to wonder, if the stats run true or pretty true, why is there such a big difference, or a clear difference in the rates of obesity from country to country? The obesity risk in Vietnam could be due to factors such as local cuisines are much healthier, organic, fresh, a lower percentage of oils, the food's not as processed. These are all things that I was thinking about whilst I was kind of looking and comparing these stats from the charts that I just pulled up. But this was me just making random correlations and not causation. There was actually a paper by Alexander Bentley, Paul Ormerod, and Damien Rook that looked at the poverty and obesity causation and how it is only apparent in developed countries. So basically it's just shit all over the correlation of trying to make between poverty and obesity rates being different for different countries. But they explored this and they came to a conclusion that income and obesity, they found that while there was no correlation in 1990 between the two, in 2015, in states where income was below 45,000, which is 34.5k a year in the UK, obesity rates or levels were more than 35%. Whereas in states where income was above $65,000 a year, levels were less than 25%. One of the things that the paper kind of looked at is that people who are in these lower threshold or lower income areas probably have shit on their plate much more concerning than just being overweight. So this may be one of the reasons that people aren't as conscious potentially about being overweight or looking after the health or exercising or dieting. The second thing that I concluded was that a lot of these people who are living in poverty areas live in things that are known as food deserts. So they've got to trek miles and miles and miles to even get anywhere that remotely sells anything that would be deemed as healthy or health conscious, which is just not convenient or efficient for the people who are living in these circumstances. The third, and this was one that I was really interested in, was that an increasing number of low-income Americans have become hooked on processed foods such as sugars, salts, and in particular soft drinks containing fructose corn syrup. The obesity and diabetes epidemic could be driven by the commercial oversupply and widespread marketing in expensive high-sugar foods, especially HFCS, sweetened beverages, according to the paper. And this got me thinking around real, high palatable, high sugar, convenient goods at the touch of our fingertips, such as Uber Eats, any fast food chains which will drop off and deliver. It's not even like when you were a child anymore. Remember when you used to have to go to the chip shop?
Finley Mega Chip.
And you would have to walk there. You would have to go to the chip shop, wait for your order. You'd come back, you'd finger the greasy paper to try and get a couple of chips out, burn your fingers on the way home, and then you do the rest of the steps on the way back. So you'd be getting some movement and activity in there. Now, Uber Eats will literally, if you're in a hotel room, fucking walk up the stairs, take the elevator to your door and drop it off. You have to do nothing. So the actual expenditure or the exchange for the food is now smaller than ever. And there's a book that I'm reading at the moment. It's called... What the fuck is that book called? The Chimp That Understood the Universe. And it's a great book. I'd recommend anyone to read it. And it's looking at this, it's kind of a cultural evolution mismatch between human evolution and where we are now, a culture, i.e. this fastly developing foods, and all these foods, such as sugary foods and stuff, being massively overdeveloped to taste a certain way so that we get more hooked on it. And it was looking at things and the way that human beings interpret or feel pleasure. So we look at things like when a baby sucks the thumb. It's the equivalent to a baby sucking on the teat or the nipple to get milk. It takes pleasure from sucking on the thumb. We look at things like sex. Why is it so pleasurable? Because there's an outcome of that we want to reproduce. And then we look at foods. So there's this actual inbuilt within our DNA that human beings are more satiated, even potentially maybe use the word addicted, to sugary foods, because when we lived in the savannas way back when, we had to make sure that we didn't undereat and die. Whereas now this kind of built-in high palatability and satiation that we get from sugary and starchy and salty foods does the opposing, because food is so abundantly, easily accessible that we have the opposite outcome, that we have tons and tons of people who are obese, and we now have the danger that people are going to overeat and die. So we're basically human beings that are fighting and trying to lose weight in a time where food supermarkets, food chains are producing tons of sugary fast foods. And even our fruits are now grown in labs, and it's like they've been on D-bol for 12 weeks, and we see these supersized human fruits way sweeter than ever, which gets hooked. And I just wanted to pull this clip up of Ben Carpenter because I think this was really useful. It was what someone sent me from my friend Chris Williamson's podcast.
If you have rodents in a cage and you change their diet, so they're still allowed to eat as much as they want, but you change their regular chow with a cafeteria diet, muffins, biscuits, cakes, etc., they gain weight reliably. And you don't blame the rat. You've changed their food and the rat is suddenly wanting to eat more because the foods are delicious. That's what's happening to us on a human level. I view it as people trying to diet now probably feel like they're swimming upstream more than they would have 30 years ago, when it would be easier to stay lean.
This is an awesome video and an awesome quote, because it basically epitomizes what I've just been talking about in that video, that we, i.e. being the rats, have not evolved with the new diet that's been placed in front of us. There's this mismatch where like Flintstones in the fast lane still peddling, trying to catch up with this change that culture has evolved and given to us to get us addicted to these food companies so that we never leave them. We become bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think losing weight has never been harder. However, does this mean that losing weight is out of our control? And I'm going to take another quote now. It's full of quotes today. It's one from Alex Hormozi, and he was talking about how if someone's had it worse off but done it better, it's not impossible. It's hard, but it's not impossible. And there's things that we need to take into consideration, that even if something isn't your fault, it's still your problem. It's still your responsibility to action and take care of yourself and your life, even if it is harder than it used to be. Because before I went on holiday, I did this 4-week cutting period, and it was probably one of the most difficult ones that I'd done just off the back of having my surgery. I'm going to do a video on it and put it up in the next couple of weeks. And I'll get these two images up because this was me pre-holiday and this was me for holiday. I'll even get one of me up after holiday because there's certain things that went on in this period and it kind of really kicked unhealthy eating relationships off for me again. And now that I understand these evolutionary changes a little bit more and how much harder it is now to lose weight, especially if you're living on a fast food diet, to make those habitual changes, it's helping me understand diets a lot more as well. I think the thing that we can do, though, to help create change is starting to dictate our environment, starting to make habitual changes, starting to remove things. If we look at the basic principles of atomic habits and building habits, one of them is to remove the bad habits, remove the things that are going to create the bad habits. So straight away, get rid of all the shit that's in your house that's potentially causing you to binge on these high sugary salty foods, because no one's binging on a carrot or an apple. It just doesn't happen. So this is one of the things, if you're ever going to snack or eat, it can potentially be just a hunger cue rather than appetite. So get rid of those things that are potentially causing you to fuck up on the diet or fuck up on your journey. That could be eliminated before you even start. And this is kind of the thing of dictating your environment. We can do other things with behaviors. We can look at how much we're walking a day. We can look at our diary. We can have analytics from fucking watches, Garmin's, iPhones, Apple Health that can tell us how much we're moving a day, how much we're not doing, how much we've just become creatures of comfort and not moving anywhere near as much as we used to. We've become a species that look a lot more useful, that don't experience hard as much as we used to. We're living for longer, and this is potentially why, because we live an easier life. But harder means losing weight. And this is one of the things that I was thinking about is the academia and the education, and even for personal training, is slightly out of date, especially in this fast-paced changing world of the internet and media and the change within the food industry, that now a lot of this data education is becoming dated in general, and it's not being updated enough to fit the cultural changes that we're going through year on year. And as we're seeing, those obesity rates change. I was in this other video though as well, and I thought this was quite interesting to look at, because I know from the body positivity movement, there's often a lot of things that are promoted as being out of your control, and you shouldn't try and change them, you should just settle for them. So I wanted to show you this video.
First, I agree with some of this shit. Appreciating your body in spite of flaws, sure. Feeling confident about your body, yeah. Loving yourself, absolutely. But accepting your body's shape and size, that's where you got me fucked up. Body positivity also means enjoying the body you have and not beating yourself up over changes that happen naturally due to aging and pregnancy, absolutely. But lifestyle choices, abso-fucking-lutely not,
Yep,
dude. Are you kidding me? If your lifestyle choices are actively harming your body, there's nothing positive about that. When I was almost 200 pounds and I was pre-hypertensive and pre-diabetic at 19 years old, and when people were telling me, just love yourself, embrace body positivity, like, there was nothing fucking positive about anything that
I definitely agree with the things that she's saying there, and I think what she's done is she's taken some of the things from body positivity, because there's a lot of positive things there. I don't think it's ever a black or white situation. But then she's also chosen to take her own spin on things in terms of, you know what, I'm going to take control, I'm going to take responsibility because it's my problem. Even if I didn't create it and it's not my fault, I'm going to take responsibility and take action on those things that I want to change.
Self-love should be about loving yourself and taking the best fucking care of yourself. So when I was 19 and I was obese and I was already having health issues, the best fucking thing I ever did was look at myself in the mirror and tell myself, holy fuck, if you do not make changes, you are going to go down a road that you are not going to be able to turn back from.
I think this is applicable for a lot of people, especially people. There's this other theory called the inner citadel theory, of where basically a lot of people who can't achieve things in life, when we take it and look at weight loss, we often look at the body positivity movement in terms of if someone fails at something and they can't achieve it, what they often then do is they change what they value instead of trying to change things that will lead to the result that they were looking for. And they basically change the rules of the game. And this, you can, I mean, if we apply this to other situations, maybe you were wanting to go to a festival next weekend. It was a big hyped up social event that everyone valued. You didn't get a ticket for it. So therefore, what do? You go, do you know what? I didn't want to go to the event anyway. It was going to be shit. I had something else on. You change what you value because you didn't achieve the thing that you wanted to get. Maybe that's a shit example, but it's the closest thing I could find to the basic things that go on today. I am going to leave you with a solution to this problem. And the big thing for me, I spoke about this in previous weeks, is the impact that community has on helping change and help with weight loss. Because we know now from the video I've been speaking about, losing weight is more difficult than ever. So how can we do that? Well, we know that group exercise increases accountability, it increases motivation, it increases cohesion, it increases sustainability. So doing things with other people and having support massively helps with weight loss. We know that as a health and fitness industry, we're failing people with weight loss. We're good at losing weight. We're not good at maintaining the weight loss. People tend to bounce back. And this is where I think a lot of people need support post losing weight. So what we've got coming up for the My Coach community, which is my coaching community with thousands of people and supporting each other in a really positive environment, is we've got a 12-week challenge coming up. And within that 12-week challenge, it's going to be the opportunity for you to first get your foot in the door to changing your habits and behaviors. So simple things such as getting an earlier bedtime and getting an earlier wake up, getting from 5K steps to 6K steps, running a little bit further, lifting a little bit more, losing a little bit more weight, building some more self-confidence. And we're calling it owning summer, because a lot of people think leave it too late to go away on holidays, and then they're kind of worried about things. They do fad diets, crash diets, and these are the kind of things that cause rebounds and poor relationships with food. So we're trying to create an environment and a community that works together along with two awesome coaches, one being myself, to get people in the best, not just shape, but best point of their lives and create a better version of themselves that they can be proud of this summer. So I'll leave all the details to that in the description below if you want to check out a little bit more. The waiting list, I think, will be open at the moment, but the enrollment will not be. It's going to be a super popular one, the summer one, so make sure you dive in there and check out. If you have any questions on this, please drop them below and let me know. Hope you all enjoyed this video. I know it was a bit of a random tangent on what I've really become interested and indulged into why the last video, obesity rates seem to be rising and rising and rising, not slowing down. I think it's very multifaceted, but I think there's also a lot to do with evolution and culture and how they're both fighting each other. So if you enjoyed this video, please drop it a like and a thumbs up. If you've got any questions, drop them below. If you are not subscribed, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button because it massively helps me. If you have any topics that you would like me to cover or look further into, please also drop them in the description below. Have a good one. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please drop a like. If this is your first time visiting my channel, subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.
Don't finna jump for the shit up top when I